Devil in a red dress. Call 911, I'm a killer. You know I hate to confess. Bang, bang, got my hand on the trigger. The devil in
Hello,
a red
Trabant.
dress.
Hello, Tito.
We've talked a lot about COVID before, but is there anything new coming up on the issue?
What's new is right now is that the Biden's administration 5 days ago missed the deadline when was supposed to release the declassified documents on COVID origins.
Okay, well, let's backtrack a little bit. In March this year, a bill has been passed that the documents that the U.S. has will be declassified.
That's correct.
So President Biden signed the bill after Congress. You've mentioned that they've unanimously approved it.
That's right. That's what happened.
Okay, so
And
until they had up until what was it, the 18th of this month of June, to release some information. Yeah,
yeah, nothing happened.
and
Nothing
nothing. And
happened.
now you saying nothing is being coming out. Now, what could be the reason for that? Are they still putting the documents together, or um, what are they
No,
waiting
the
for?
documents are already there. It's just supposed to be declassified.
Mhm.
But Biden's administration decided that for some reason not to do that. And the reason could be that China, maybe because the documents were just about to be released to the public, organized or asked Blinken to come to Junanhai in Beijing to meet Xi Jinping. Or just in case that something would go wrong, they organized very quickly another visit of Chinese Premier Li Qiang in Germany,
To
just to
to sort of
cover
cover the
this
story
bad
over.
story
Yeah.
with other stories. Yeah,
Okay.
cover it over. Yeah.
I think these things were planned. I mean, we know Blinken's visit has been sort of postponed due to the large balloon floating above the United States. But
That's
yeah,
true,
I
but
mean, um, it seems like the Biden administration might be waiting because they don't want to antagonize China needlessly. They really seem to be caught between this policy of trying to not appease China while at the same time trying to keep an open dialogue.
mhm, mhm. Probably, yeah, probably. Uh, Whitewashing, the events of the last 3 years. Well, yeah, seems like it. Seems like it. Yeah. Anyway, there are some more information that might be also mentioned in these already declassified documents that are just about to be released any day. And one
Oh,
of the information is the story about Professor Joe Uson, who worked for the People's Liberation Army.
let's see if we can get a picture of him.
Uh,
That should be him right there.
okay, okay, yeah, that's probably him. He was 54 years old in 2020, and he worked for several years, maybe like 7 years, in Wuhan Institute of Virology. Also, he was the PLA's scientist,
So he was
like
he was essentially a military doctor, a military scientist, a military researcher.
yeah, yeah, correct. He was the fifth. He was a director of the Fifth Institute of the Academy of Military Medical Sciences, and
But
he
what?
worked with the Wuhan Institute of Virology.
But what is he doing now?
Now he is resting in peace.
Oh my, what happened to
and
him?
nobody is talking about him in China.
I mean, it's, I haven't heard about it much, but there was a story in the Chinese media that what was it, that he was supposed to fall off a roof?
Yes, we don't know for sure because the news came out in 2021. So basically, the whole story is like uh, Mr. Joe was working, his team began work on vaccine development before the known outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic in late December 2019, maybe earlier, maybe November, as early as autumn. And several experts assess that Joe likely would have had to start this vaccine development research no later than November 2019 to achieve the February patent submission date.
Hmm.
So Joe later published transgenic mouse infection and vaccine challenge studies in mice, including humanized mice and non-human primates.
And what are
So,
exactly
which means
humanized mice?
humanized mice are just mice that have that are basically their biology is adjusted to imitate like a human body, like
I
human
think in
lungs
this
in this
case,
case.
it was lungs, or some of the cells I assume were supposed to have similar proteins and therefore similar entry points for the viruses that they were studying. It
Oh,
sounds like
okay,
that.
okay, okay. Thank you for the explanation. Yes, probably. Yeah, probably that's correct. Yeah. So So just a quick thought. I mean, if you have to develop the vaccine, you probably already have the virus, and the virus must be
That sounds
in
quite
might,
logical.
must be able to infect humans. Otherwise, you cannot develop the vaccine because the virus mutates, and only after the virus appears, so then you can develop the vaccine. No sooner.
Well, anyway,
So they apparently,
what they can be
yeah,
doing, what they can be trying to develop a vaccine which would cover several illnesses. But anyways, go on. You were saying.
yeah. So it's the locations where Joe's animal vaccine challenge studies were performed. Well, we don't know where it was exactly, but we believe, or it's believed that they were performed at the Wuhan Institute of Virology's downtown Wuhan campus, which is very close, just a mile away from the Wuhan Institute of Virology.
Mhm.
So, it is extremely likely that Joyus knew a lot of state secrets about what was going on at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, how the Chinese government learned about COVID-19, and perhaps how the whole pandemic started. And the country's internal security services had an enormous incentive to make sure that he would never publicly disclose anything he shouldn't, and that he would never tell his tale.
Wow. Um,
Otherwise, how come that we don't know the exact date of his death? It was never published publicly, and if it was just some ordinary car incident or whatever, although he was apparently was healthy, he didn't have any health conditions. So, what was the reason for the secrecy about his death?
I don't
Right?
know. I mean, yeah, that's obviously a good question. The whole um, point that we're trying to make is we don't know a lot of information because the Chinese government has not been very forthcoming with either allowing more independent investigation, regarding the origins of COVID, or publishing their own findings. That would have definitely hinted at something. Yeah. And of course, this leads to all kinds of speculations because there are there are other maybe more wilder speculations about one a researcher from a Wuhan lab, if that was the from the Wuhan Institute of Virology. I don't know. But who? Being one of the possible patient zero for COVID, or one of the several patient zero, probably one of the three. Yeah, this has been seen as a conspiracy theory, but the reason why these things survive is because China has not come up with some kind of evidence to to support their claims. I mean, what kind of evidence did China come up with?
Well, all I want to say that Mr. Zhu was a highly decorated PLA scientist, right?
Let's get back to
and
that.
he was his team developed the vaccine for COVID-19. How come he's dead? How come that no website acknowledged Joe's death? How come that his death was covered and we know maybe it's true, maybe it's not true that he fell off a roof of Wuhan Institute of Virology?
Ridiculous.
What was he doing on the roof? I mean, there was a leak, or he was repairing the roof,
repairing the leak.
Trying to save. Yeah?
Bad samples.
What a nonsense. What a nonsense. I would like to know how he died. Did he die of COVID? Just like Li Wenliang?
Yeah.
Is it the same what happened to him?
Yeah, and I mean, hopefully, some one day more information about this will come to light. But then again, who knows? Who knows how much evidence China has kept regarding the entire issue?
How many more scientists got infected? How many more scientists from Wuhan Institute of Virology were the patient zeros? We don't know.
It's a good question.
Because they just disappeared. They left. There were none of the team of the scientists that work in Wuhan in 2019 was there in 2021. Either they died, or they were moved, or they quit. I don't know. Or they went.
They were released.
Fell off the roof. I don't know.
Hopefully not.
Yes. Yeah. It was like a massive suicide.
Yeah.
It's suddenly I don't know. Just awful. China destroyed all the records from the lab. I mean, there was nothing to be found. China was not transparent. China lied that is for 3 weeks that this virus was transmissible.
China has been or at the local level initially, they have been they've been trying to cover everything up. The problem is you can't cover an illness that spreads quickly, right? So this is clearly the wrong decision. It's like trying to cover up radiation in Chernobyl. This is not something you can.
Exactly the same.
This is something which is which behaves according to certain natural principles, not according to. So obviously not something you can contain. Yeah. So it's it would be very naive. The correct reaction of the Wuhan government would be, "Oh, please help us. We have a virus here. Please help us isolate. All the. I mean, they don't have to say that. That we messed up, but we are in trouble. Help us isolate. People while there is some possibility of isolating. This would have been the obvious correct reaction. Yeah. The completely opposite incorrect reaction, would be to try to ignore the problem it spills over and becomes somebody else's problem.
Yeah, imagine how many lives could be saved, and how much faster the vaccine would be developed if they were transparent, if they cooperated, if they didn't lie, if they didn't cover, if when they asked for information or some data, they were refusing. I mean, the after the vaccines were developed, after they provided some data, like they were doing everything to sabotage the development of the vaccines.
I don't know. I'm sure they did have some own vaccine developments, but that they were the Chinese COVID vaccination program was not quite that successful. The successful vaccines that came out of it, they varied widely, between 50 to 90%. So
Exactly. They were very yeah, they were not working, and
no, I mean they
even
were
after
working, but not they were not quite as
not
effective
efficient.
as the
Yeah.
other vaccines that were
Yeah.
developed around the
And
world.
I remember when China was offered the foreign vaccines, I remember the Chinese reaction was like, okay, we will allow you to put your vaccines on our market, but you have to give us the know-how. They were asking unshamefully for the know-how, how to create this RNA, what is it called?
mRNA vaccines, mRNA
mRNA vaccines. Yeah, yeah, mRNA vaccines. So. No shame, no shame.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
at that point, you're not supposed to ask for this. You're supposed to take whatever, you can. I mean, this is not the time and place to negotiate about these things.
No, they screwed up. They screwed up badly. Yeah.
It's like, one mistake after another.
Yeah, and they got away with it. When it started, the people in China were shocked, about the hygiene of the people in Wuhan. They were slandering people in Wuhan as like people with some dirty habits. And then, as early as February 2020, they realized that how about we will blame some other countries? So look around, like look at our closest ally in Europe, Italy, how badly they are doing. How about we put the blame on them and say that the virus came from Italy, and they got away with it. They got
Yeah,
away
but
with
this
it.
is, this is very naive. Yeah. I mean, maybe it would be convenient to say this at some
Yeah,
point in
it's
China, but this is very myopic. Yeah.
right. You're right.
But I mean, it was just as sort of ridiculous as China claiming that they found the source of
Oh yeah.
COVID, the animal that it came from, which they've
Mm-hmm.
declared at least twice, and
Yeah,
the
yeah,
information was
twice.
later demented.
Yeah, yeah. That's so they always found the animal, and all the scientists around the world were like, okay, stop talking about the lab leak. It's over. They found the animal, and like 1 or 2 months later was like, oh, actually, nope. We are still looking, and just
And,
deflecting and lying and deflecting and lying. That was China was doing
the point
all
is, no
2020.
nobody was focusing on the lab leak around the world. They were trying to solve the issue, right? Um, and when China comes out with these claims, then it destroys the whole credibility. Right? You say, "Oh, we found it." No, wait, not really. And then, "Oh, we found it again." Still not it. Then,
Yeah, pangolin. I don't know what else. Yeah, yeah. No, they still haven't found it until this day. China haven't found the animals, and China hasn't confirmed who the patient zeros were. That's more than suspicious. More than suspicious.
Yeah, and unfortunately, this doesn't help anybody. This is water on the mill or fuel to the fire to the conspiracy theory or the fact that it came from the Wuhan Institute of Virology.
Yeah, just use your basic logic.
Because when
Wuhan Institute of Virology is studying bats that were transported there from south of China because around Wuhan there are no horseshoe bats. Zero. Zero horseshoe bats. These bats were studied and tested in Wuhan Institute of Virology. The gain of function was applied and tested and done in Wuhan Institute of Virology. Big surprise, there is an outbreak of coronavirus in Wuhan.
and if China doesn't say anything, then it,
Yeah.
it may it leads people to believe, oh, guilty as charged. But this is not
Yep.
this is not even the problem. I mean, China could have done a lot more to help people, to help the world. But I don't know if
China
they've
was-
you know if they've I don't want to say that they haven't done enough, but it's always like questionable. How much more could they have done? How better the problem could have been handled.
All China cared about was saving its face. Nothing else mattered.
That's unfortunately, yes, the issue and the problem that I was describing earlier. First, the government of Wuhan waits until it spills over to become
Yeah.
the country's problem, right? Which then
Right.
closes Wuhan down, so it becomes even worse for them. Luckily, they survived it, but by that time, it becomes the world's problem, right? And what does China do? Okay, well, let's close down and wait, until somebody else solves the problem, and then,
Right.
then hopefully we'll be okay. So this is not a very good plan.
No.
So
It
hopefully
was awful.
we will not see this again. But I mean, the reason why we are mentioning these things is that unfortunately China has not had a very positive record when it comes to following rules,
Being
safety
transparent.
standards, procedures, and being transparent. There was a case in 1977 of the so-called Russian flu, which spread around the Soviet Union. Here you can see most of the countries where modern pandemics originated. Yeah. Now, keep in mind that you see the Russian flu here in 1977, but we also see the 1957 Asian flu pandemic, right? In Hong Kong and China. What is speculative is that there was some discussion about the 1977 flu virus variant being somewhat similar to the 1957 one, which is then makes it seem a little bit suspicious because normally, you get a new flu variant every year. The virus only has an RNA strand, so mutations or bad copies can happen every time the virus copies, which happens very often. So
Okay, let me ask you, how many people died in 1977 of this Russian virus?
I'm not sure. I know there was an outbreak in the northeastern part of China, in the province of Liaoning, Jilin, and in Tianjin. So this, the outbreak
Okay,
could have very well
my
originated.
number is 700,000 people. Would it be correct? 700,000 people.
Wow, this is a huge number.
Maybe Yeah, just in China.
Wow.
Yeah.
So and
Mm,
the reason why this was thought to have been a laboratory leak was because at this time they were conducting vaccine trials or vaccine experiments in China. Now, normally,
how did it go?
it's a good question because normally what you do when you're making a vaccine for a virus or any vaccine, but let's
Mm-hmm.
talk about a virus specifically. A virus is not alive,
Mm-hmm.
it can only replicate. So,
Mm-hmm.
what you want to give the body is an inactive version, one that cannot replicate. Right? So, either some
Right.
damaged genetic material or, just the outside uh, the virus, which is usually a capsid coat with some proteins that it uses to enter a host cell. And uh, oftentimes you expose a real virus to a heat source, right?
Uh-huh.
And then that creates the inactive version. Now I'm assuming that
Okay.
what can easily happen is that when the what if you have an inactive version there, right?
Uh-huh.
Then it
Uh-huh.
can then it is able to reproduce and it can create a pandemic. All right. So maybe they were
Okay,
trying,
this was terrible.
yeah, because they were trying to produce a probably a new anti-flu vaccine, right? And instead, uh, if this is what happened, then it contributed to a pandemic. So instead of saving people, just because
Yeah.
because some standards, some procedures were not followed correctly, you know, people ended up dying instead.
Exactly. Yeah. Let me correct myself. 700,000 people died worldwide,
Ah, okay.
and this virus probably as a result of failed vaccine trial mostly affected population younger than 25 or 26 years of age.
Hmm.
So mostly young people
Interesting.
died, 700,000 people worldwide. And it was probably a leak, not a leak, it was a failed vaccine trial.
Yeah. I mean,
Unbelievable.
again, it's the problem with not following correct procedures and not maintaining an adequate standards. So there's no wonder that
Mhm.
people would start saying this about the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Oh, who knows how
Mhm.
well they followed their standards. If you hear,
Uh-huh.
if you have these kinds of records coming out of China. Um, Now, I mean, I understand, that it's difficult to, when you have a large population and large clusters of population together, then, then it's a little bit more difficult to control these things. But that is not an excuse. You know.
Uh-huh.
All you
Uh-huh.
should. That is the reason why you should be even more careful
Uh-huh.
when you are
Uh-huh.
doing anything, right? Because we have
Right.
we have other examples of things that went wrong when the standards procedures were not followed, right? Here we
Mhm.
see
Mhm.
a
Mhm.
mural which is 辅助你的手 extend your hand 给艾滋病病人一份关爱 give AIDS patients or HIV patients show them some kindness, right?
Mhm.
Care and kindness, right? And what happened?
Mhm.
So this was an effort, on the part of the government to destigmatize HIV. Um, and the reason why I'm talking about this, why I'm bringing it up, is because in the early 1990s, between 1990 and 1996, there were cases of China not following proper blood transfusion techniques,
Mhm.
and as a result, an entire village in Hunan province would become infected with HIV.
Shocking.
For example, when they are taking blood plasma, which is used for
Mhm.
to create certain medicines, then they usually return the red blood cells back to the donor. But the problem can
Mhm.
occur, or what if what if there was some other? I'm making things up here, but what if there was some other blood there before that? Maybe it wasn't cleaned properly. What if something like that
Mhm.
happens, and there is a viral infection there? Well, this is very well what might have happened because then as a result of these transfusions and these blood donations, an entire village would have become infected with AIDS. They received some government
Disaster.
support and subsidies, but uh, an entire village would essentially be left to die. Quite, they would receive medicine, of course,
Unbelievable.
and uh, support from the government, but again,
Mhm.
something, it's another example of trying to do something, and oh no, we messed up one little thing, and you see the problem that it causes.
Yes, absolutely.
This is what came to my mind first when I think of these things. But there were other things as well.
Mhm.
Perhaps you remember the melamine scandal from around
Oh
2008.
yeah.
How
Oh
melamine
yes.
got into
Yes.
China's dairy products. Yeah.
Oh yes. I remember. There were like 300,000 infants were affected. Like only six of them died, but 300,000 of them uh, were like affected by drinking this melamine milk, and they got some kidney problems or other like long life problems. This is awful.
Yeah.
10 tons of melamine contaminated milk powder in the southern provinces of China.
Yeah. And in this case, this is simply, you could say because of greed,
Mm-hmm.
and the other reason is not having enough sufficient oversight and regulating these
Mm-hmm.
products. And as a result,
Mm-hmm.
A lot of Chinese consumers would have a very hard time trusting Chinese
It's still
baby milk, baby powder formulas.
they still don't trust. It was so bad until this day. Chinese people don't trust their Chinese baby formula,
Yeah, yeah. So
and that's why
think of
they,
all the damage it has caused. Yeah.
yeah, they keep buying formula from Germany or other countries. Yeah, they still don't trust it because it's so bad, so bad.
Why,
Oh dear.
why did I bring up these things? Not because I want to say, oh, look at all the bad things in China did or that happened in China, but because I'm hoping that the world and especially China will have taken a lesson from this, and yeah, hopefully
Well,
you will see.
first you have to admit a mistake. They have to show your regrets, and maybe some compensation would be in order. And then maybe you can say, okay, we learned something and we don't want it to happen again. But if you deny it, if you deflect, if you put the blame on other countries, I mean, I don't think that what you learn is also that you can get away with it.
Yeah, and this
If we
is
just
the key point of the problem that unfortunately authoritarian regimes, they will oftentimes they will try to cover things up and try to get
yeah.
away with problems to the extent that they can, uh,
Yes.
until
Yes.
they have no other way than to
Mm-hmm.
than to do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
deny,
Deny,
deflect,
deflect,
and
and
shrug
shrug
shoulders.
shoulders.
So unfortunately, and this might be the kind of information that other countries have to operate with when they are dealing with some news coming out of China.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
cannot be
Cannot be
trusted.
trusted.
Anyways,
Cannot be
I'm
trusted.
I'm curious, what kinds of findings, if any, new findings
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
we will see about COVID. I think it will not affect things in the long run. After all, vaccines have been developed, so
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
it's not going to affect the future that much. But it
Mm-hmm.
might influence some policies in the future.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's
Let's
see.
see.
Let's
Let's
wait,
wait.
wait
Wait
for
for
the
the
for
for
the
the
documents
documents
on
on
COVID
COVID
origins
origins
declassified.
declassified.
They're
They're
already
already
5 days
5 days
late,
late,
and
and
we
we
can
can
meet
meet
again
again
and
and
make
make
Let's
another
another.
podcast.
let's see. When the Chinese dignitaries finish their tour around the world,
Yeah.
finish up their meetings, and
Right.
then we can meet as well.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right,
Right.
right,
Okay.
Right.
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 Well, yeah. Let's see
Okay.
how this develops. Well,
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's
Let's
see.
see.
yeah. So unfortunately, yeah,
Okay.
we had this sad trip down the memory lane today, but hopefully we've learned something.
Right.
So, well, then, until
Mm-hmm.
then, stay safe and take care.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you
You
too,
too,
Tito.
Tito.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks a
Talk
lot,
to you next
Ravan.
time.
See you later. Bye bye.
See
See
you.
you.
Bye.